In this demo, we're going to talk about smoke testing. Now, two benefits we see for smoke testing are to pick up your application and deploy it to another cloud to give you a chance to test whether your application works without going through the complicated effort of running through all the deployment. The second scenario is that Kubernetes is a fast-moving platform. There's new versions being released all the time. If you're in cloud environments, you may have you have a mandatory version you'll need to be on. And if you're running in private environments, you'll probably want to keep up to date. So the idea is that you can quickly and efficiently test your application on these environments and give yourself the confidence that everything's going to work as expected. So let's start back at the Cape dashboard. And on the left-hand side here, you'll see we have smoke tests. Now this will take us into the smoke test dashboard, where we have snapshot definitions, which is the container of what do we want to take our snapshot of. We have our snapshot instances, which is the particular snapshot that we've taken. And here we have snapshot deployments, which is the restore or the deployment of that snapshot onto our remote cluster. So let's start with defining our snapshot. So I'm going to call this my prod EKS to AKS. And this time I'm going to select my production AWS server. Now from here I select the namespace, which in this case is my web shop prod that I want to pick up. Now optionally I can select some labels, and what I need to do is select a location for this. So I've pre-configured some S3 buckets. So this could be any kind of object store. We also support Google and Amazon, AWS and Azure. So let's install. Just wait for a moment while this checks that the components are there and maps any drives. So this can take a few moments, and this is also making sure that the backup components and any software that's needed in order to make sure the snapshot runs is there. So this is completed. We can see now we can have the option to execute some test runs. Now, test runs are configured separately in the smoke test and give you the option to execute via webhook or via SSH, some external systems. And if they're configured with a callback, we can then get that feedback. At the end of those, if we've got an auto build cluster, we can shut it down, and we can also delete snapshots, and we can remove the snapshots as well. So we're going to do nothing in this one. We have the option to create with data. So if there's PVCs that need to come out, again, as you can see, there's no volumes on this. And finally, we can select the cluster to be deployed, which we're going to select our Smoke Azure server. Once again, you'll notice we have our estimate time and size, so that once again, we can reach out, have a look at those image sizes and give a rough estimate of how long it's going to take. So let's define our snapshot, and then let's go to our snapshots file. So here now we can see the name of our snapshot and our default cluster, and let's take a look into the further details inside it. So from here we can see that there's no instances currently. We can see our snapshot location and our deployment locations. So let's take a snapshot and deploy. So let's just take a quick look here. We can see that there's nothing on our Smoke Azure server, and we can see our application on our AWS server. So let's deploy to our default cluster. So this is going to take a few moments to execute in the background. Once it does, then it's got to pull that data off and place it back on. So what we'll do while that's just creating is we'll just discuss a little bit more about smoke tests. So as an optional extra, what we've got is a little bit more about our smoke tests here. So the idea is to test as quick as possible and to understand whether it fails or whether it works straight away. Current errors, we might be looking for unexpected build errors, we might be looking for connection errors, we might be looking to validate the response and check what we get from our servers. As I mentioned, the use cases that we see are different and new versions of Kubernetes, checking infrastructure changes and configuration drifts, looking at new environments that we've built, maybe new clouds, maybe new regions within an existing cloud that we're using. And finally, sort of like application deployment verification, so testing new versions of applications. So let's have a quick look at how our deployment is progressing at the moment. And here we can see that we've successfully managed to deploy our application via a smoke test into our Azure server. So that concludes our scenario here. Thank you for watching this demo, and I hope it was useful in giving you a good sense of how Cape helps developers and teams be more efficient and effective when it comes to deploying applications on Kubernetes. For more resources on Cape, visit cape.sh/start-here or book a meeting with our experts through the email address shown on screen.